Dave, you are going to be a bit like Cher and just have no surname. You are just going to be...
No. To my friends, they call me all kinds of things, but my surname is Valkema. In the Dutch language, that means falcon. So either my ancestors were falcon trainers, which was the big sport of the era, or they had hooked noses.
Or he's a superhero. Sounds to me like a superhero. Or a villain.
It's that sort of heritage, though, that really is the beginning of the Dave's Dog story. Just tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I've been doing business in the British Isles in the reinsurance business for 30 years now. And I come week at a time from my hometown of Chicago. And I love a good hot dog. Americans do. It's our iconic food. And when I was pressed to find a hot dog on the streets of London years ago, and I couldn't find one, I was just forlorn. What do I do? So I went without and had a meat pie instead, a pork pie. Very good, but it didn't satiate my taste. And being very thoroughly American, when I couldn't get a good hot dog, I said, right. My grandparents were German and Dutch. I know how to make hot dogs, for heaven's sakes. That's their food. So I started making hot dogs about 3-4 years ago in my kitchen here in Solby on the island. And the learning curve is steep. I had a lot of fun doing it. The first hot dogs didn't look anything like a hot dog as you would envision them. But I got to the point where we were doing pretty good, and the hot dogs were coming out at least tubular shaped and pretty good. I used my grandmother's recipes for seasons. And so people were asking me, how can we get your hot dogs? I said, well, you can have them. My goodness, I'm just making them for fun. And as the law of financial situations go, supply and demand. I couldn't keep up with the demand anymore. The supply couldn't keep up. So I ended up buying a production facility because I can't keep on making hot dogs for sale in my little kitchen in Solby. And one thing led to another, and voila, Dave's Delicious Dogs was created.
There's also a little bit of the story which I really wanted to tell, which we just missed out there, which is about a hot dog cart. Tell us about that.
Right. I have a friend in New York City. He makes hot dog carts. You know, the iconic New York hot dog cart with a red and yellow umbrella. And he calls me up one day and he says, "Listen, Dave, I've got a cart in Liverpool. Would you like it?" I said, "A cart? A hot dog cart? Well, what am I going to do with a hot dog cart?" This was right before I started making hot dogs. And I said, "Well, yeah, sure, I'll take it. You could give it to me for free." So I sent a guy over to pick it up, brought it to the island, and here I have got a hot dog cart. What am I going to do with it? So then I started sourcing the hot dogs on the island. And I went and found some of those jarred hot dogs, glass jars, and then the ones in tins. And I'm like, I'm reading the back ingredient list, and I'm like, 30% mechanically separated chicken parts on pork hot dogs? What? I couldn't believe it. So I ended up, that's when I had started making the hot dogs. I said to my friend in New York City, who asked me a year later, "What are you doing with a hot dog cart?" I said, "Well, I formed a company around the whole idea, and I'm having fun making hot dogs now too." So that's where that came from.
And this is that this whole process gave you some sort of understanding about why British people didn't have the same love for hot dogs as you did.
Absolutely. I can understand why you all don't like hot dogs like we do in America. What you've been offered is not a good, high-quality, posh, beautiful, wholesome hot dog. Our hot dogs are all made from meat from my friend Al Tier up in Ballykelly Farm in Andreas. And he grows the most incredibly quality pork and beef that you can buy. So our meat in our hot dogs is steroid-free, GMO-free, antibiotic-free. It's got all the earmarks of a quality product.
And how confident would you be, Dave, of being able to sell those hot dogs on the streets of New York, for example?
Well, let me tell you one thing. I sent the hot dogs to the British Guild of Fine Foods last year, just for fun. I only wanted to find out what their professional tasters and their chefs and their grocery store magnates and all that, what they would say about them, they thought about the flavor of them. That's all I wanted to know. A couple months later, I got a message back saying, "You've won the award. You've won the award for the best pork hot dogs, the best beef hot dogs, and the best Polish kielbasa hot dogs in the British Isles." I'm like, well, That's great. But what do you think about them? You like them? I mean, what do you have to say about the taste? So if we can win the British Guild of Fine Foods Great Taste Awards, I think we can please the New Yorkers and the street corners of New York and the Chicago ones.